Today I'll be taking the lecture on noise control in various types of buildings. This is the second part in line with part 1 on noise, where we have studied about the basic terminologies, noise criteria curves, calculation of noise levels, and the common sound reduction strategies. Objectives of this lecture are: first, we will talk about the planning and design against the outdoor noise in road traffic conditions and railways. Next, we will study about the traffic noise mitigation measures so that the impact of road traffic noise can be reduced. Lastly, we will talk about the recommendations to control noise in various types of buildings. As per standards, while determining whether a site is affected by noise, we must consider major roadways within 1000 feet, roads in the vicinity of the railway tracks within 3000 feet, civil airports within 5 miles, military airfields within 15 miles. As we already know that there are some different sources of noise, so noise emissions can be from a point, that can be from one individual vehicle, or any kind of point source that can be a human being also. So the propagation will be spherical, or a line source. Line source could be an example of a highway where there are a number of vehicles moving here and there. So the propagation of sound is basically in a linear manner or in a cylindrical way. Or a surface source. Surface source means there is a generation of ambient noise by a set of street sources. So the street sources can be, whether we talk about the vehicles or we talk about various street vendors and their noise. So in combination of all the noise that is taking place within the street, we gather get the ambient noise. Next is planning and design against the outdoor noise. In the last lecture, we have understood about the sources of the outdoor noise. Now we will talk about its control by planning. While planning, we must keep two aspects in mind. The first is to keep noise source at a distance. Residential and housing can be separated from traffic noise from roads by having some kind of buffer zones, or by green belts, or by public gardens at the front. As you can see in the figure also, the houses are separated from road traffic noise by making a mound of trees which acts as a buffer as well. The second aspect is providing a barrier, that is principle of shading and screening. Noise barrier deflects sound and protects the residents from the road noise. Starting with the road traffic, for zoning and planning new buildings in urban areas, it is recommended that the external sound pressure is limited to 70 dBA maximum when the buildings are having the sealed windows, and 60 dBA when they are proposed to have open windows. Traffic guidelines are already in place to mitigate noise. So Traffic Guidelines Act says that roads in residential areas must be prohibited to heavy commercial vehicles. Honking to be prohibited near the noise sensitive buildings, and barriers to be provided to shield any kind of construction sites. Talking about the traffic noise, 6 major factors which influence the propagation of traffic noise are: first, the road profile, the grade of the road profile, whether it is depressed or elevated, distance from the source to the reception point, nature of ground between the source and the reception point, angle of view of traffic from the reception point, presence of screening, that is barriers or buildings acting as barriers, and the meteorological effects, the wind strength and the direction, which we have already studied in the propagation of sound. Coming on to the traffic noise mitigation, there are several ways in which the impact of road traffic can be reduced. First, at the source, that is controlling the noise emitted by the vehicle. So we are reducing the noise emitted by the source itself, and that is controlled by Traffic Guideline Act. Along the transmission path, the sound or the impact of road traffic can be reduced along the transmission path. So reducing the noise level by providing intervening barriers or buffer zones. So this part of traffic mitigation comes under Town Planning Act or Urban Design Guidelines. The impact of road traffic can be reduced at the reception point also. So at this level we are coming to the architectural design. We are coming at the building level. So protecting the building through its location and by improvising architectural design details to reduce the transmission into the interiors. First way to mitigate any kind of noise is noise control at source. That is most effective way of reducing the impact of road traffic noise. This comes under City Traffic Rules Implementation and Traffic Management System. Control at source not only can reduce the individual vehicle noise but also the bulk flow noise. So following subdivisions can be made for it. The first part is research and innovation. That means we should manufacture that kind of vehicles which are having very less sound generation. Then the city planning can also reduce the noise to a significant effect. Like for example, as you can see in the figure itself, more concentration of noise is there in the radial road pattern as compared with the gridiron pattern. In two-way traffic, due to the provision of two roads, the spaces in between are more as compared to one-way traffic. So more concentration of noise and less noise-free space will be there in one-way traffic. So coming on to noise limit, standard recommends noise limit in a particular area. That means the noise is limited to this much of an amount in a particular area. The table shown below shows the CBCB recommended noise standards for various areas. Noise limit is given in daytime as well as nighttime noise levels. Daytime refers to, we are talking about from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and night time between 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. From the table, we can get the recommended values of noise level in industrial, commercial, residential and silent zones areas. Silent zone is referred to the areas up to 100 meter around premises such as hospitals, educational institutions and courts. In silent zone areas, use of horns, loudspeakers and cracker bursting are prohibited in these areas. So silent zone areas are basically the hospital, educational institutes and not only that much of area where they are located but also around 100 meter of the periphery. So in that area, any kind of horns, loudspeakers are prohibited. Figures show some of the examples of city planning. First is about the location of the various zones. Along the expressway, industrial zone can be placed and dense green belt on the other side. Noise sensitive zone to be placed beyond the dense green belt. Commercial zones should be placed along the main road, and behind the commercial zones, noise sensitive zones to be placed. Along the streets leading to the non-sensitive zones, there must be restricted entry to the heavy vehicles. If the noise sensitive areas are coming to the front side of the main road, that means schools and hospitals are leading to the main road, are facing to the main road, there must be appropriate setback for it and speed breaker points so as to reduce the speed of the vehicle, so that it reduces the noise itself. Railway tracks, minimum prescribed distance to be provided between the building and the tracks is 50 to 70 meters. Artificial mounds or banks to be formed wherever practicable. Hard paving should also not be given, and as much as possible, grass should be given to absorb the noise generated. For highway noise, well-designed barrier of even a modest height of 3 meters can ensure that all the open areas are free from excessive noise levels. Noise limit levels are given at a distance of 30 meters from the source. Now in it you can see the various types of trains are given, and according to their speed of the train, the recommended noise limit levels are being given. Second way to mitigate any kind of noise is noise control at path, that is along the transmission. This is again one of the effective technique of reducing the urban noise. Mitigation measures include providing geometrical changes between the source and the receiver, changing the road formation level, and providing the noise barriers. Ground effect refers to the change in the sound level due to the nature of the ground. Ground effect depends on the ground characteristics, source to receiver geometry, and the spectral characteristics of the source. So the ground characteristics means whether we are talking about highly reflective surfaces or highly absorptive surfaces. Atmospheric effects also control the noise along the transmission through atmospheric absorption, refraction, and air turbulence. Atmospheric effects is due to the prevailing conditions of the atmosphere between the source and the receiver. The first figure shows the direct line of vision between the noise source and the receiver. So the building is directly exposed to road noise. To mitigate it, either we have to increase the distance between the source and the receiver or change the level between the noise source and the receiver. For the noise control along transmission, provide physical barriers between the source and the receiver, or noise control through cut and fill method, raised portion along the sides of the roads, or sunken road, or berm depressed zone for the building, retaining wall between the two for increasing the distance between the two. Shows a barrier and the sound behavior. In the figure, the noise level gets diffracted along the edges, and below that shadow zone will be there. Noise going up the barrier, in that zone all the frequencies will be present, and between the diffracted and bright zone there will be a transition zone where partial frequencies will be present. Below figure shows the noise control through earth berms, and for the construction sites the maximum noise level is limited to 75 dBA in terms of LEQ. LEQ is continuous equivalent noise level in 5 minutes of duration, and for industrial areas 65 dBA in 5 minutes of duration. Third way to mitigate noise is noise control at receiver. Control at the reception can be achieved by site planning and proper orientation, layout planning and space segregation, applying architectural acoustical treatments. The table shows the acceptable indoor noise levels for various types of buildings as per NBC 2016. Coming on to the noise control in various types of buildings. So starting with the residential buildings, the layout of residential buildings can be done in such a way that noise barriers or those spaces which are not affected by noise are placed along the front side of the road, followed by semi-noisy areas, and then at the end noise sensitive areas that are bedrooms and all, that is to be placed at the end. And courtyards can also be given for quiet outdoor space for sit-outs. Balconies and projections. Figure shows the vertical down projection given at the edge of the balcony to cut off the sound from getting in, to cut out the noise from getting in, or sound absorptive board to be given in the soffit of the balcony ceiling. Plumbing noise can be mitigated by concealing noisy areas, reducing airborne and structure-borne sound transmission. For AC noise, air conditioning noise, noise-sensitive areas to be placed far off from AHU and tubs to be supported by resilient hangers. The noise reduction at receiver end inside the building, there comes a very important term of sound transmission. Sound gets transmitted through airborne or structure-borne transmission. So the noise gets transmitted from one room to another through air or through the structure. Through structure means we are talking about the floors and walls of the building. Sound transmission through air means propagation through air. It can be through TV or children noise, etc. Structure-borne is through some solid bodies, metallic bodies or non-metallic bodies. The source, if we see the figure now, the source of sound is placed in the source room and the noise sensitive zone is the receiver room. So some property of partition wall, through some property, some sound will be reduced. So that means it is basically the propagation through air. That is, airborne noise is there. If vibrating machine is there as the source, then both in terms of airborne sound transmission as well as structure-borne transmission, both will be present in the receiver room. Coming on to the transmission loss. Transmission loss is how much the sound intensity level produced from the source gets reduced to when it reaches the receiver. So if we denote the SIL, the sound intensity level, at the source as LS and the sound intensity level at the receiver point as LR, so the difference between the two will be our transmission loss. So transmission loss can be given by LS minus LR. Another term comes in, that is transmission coefficient, that is the ratio between the sound power reaching at the receiver to the sound power generated by the source. So the ratio will be definitely, the value will be definitely less than 1. The ratio will be very small if the partition is behaving very well in terms of its sound reduction index. So if the sound reduction value is very much higher in terms of the partition property, so then the ratio, the transmission coefficient ratio will be coming out to be very small. As we know, transmission loss is equal to Ls minus Lr, and we have already studied about the sound intensity level formula, that is in terms of sound intensity level at source, Ls is equal to 10 log of Ws, that is power at source, divided by W reference, power at the reference. So in terms of Lr, that should be 10 log of Wr upon W reference. So just putting it in terms of the formula of transmission loss, Ls minus Lr equal to 10 log Ws upon W reference minus 10 log of Wr upon W reference. So if we have to omit the minus sign, then we have to reciprocate the W reference upon Wr value. So that comes out to be 10 log Ws upon W reference multiplied by W reference upon Wr. So that comes out to be 10 log of Ws upon Wr. So if we again reciprocate it, 10 log 1 upon Wr upon Ws. So we know already that Wr upon Ws is the transmission coefficient. That is 10 log of 1 upon torque. Now torque is the transmission coefficient. So from this formula, transmission loss is equal to 10 log 1 upon torque. We can find it out, the transmission coefficient, that is torque is equal to 10 minus TL raised to the power 10 minus TL upon 10. So that comes the equation for transmission coefficient. We have just omitted the log. So log of 10 we have omitted. So from the formula, TL is equal to, transmission loss is equal to 10 log of 1 upon torque. So torque is transmission coefficient. So we can compute that if the torque is high, the value is high, then transmission loss will be less. So now for finding out the transmission loss of a composite wall means the wall may be of different material, may be of having doors or windows. So having different material, having different density, we have to calculate the whole of the transmission loss for all of the composite wall. For composite wall of coming out to be in one figure. So first of all, for transmission loss, calculating the total transmission loss of that, we know that it is a log equation, 10 log of 1 upon torque. So we know that 2 log cannot be added together. So for this, for finding out the transmission loss overall, we have to first compute the transmission coefficient from the formula of 10 minus TL upon 10. Then we have to compute the or figure out the average transmission coefficient, the average value of it. And then we have to find it out, the transmission loss average from the average transmission coefficient. That is from the formula of 10 log 1 upon torque. That are the detailed steps that I have already told you. First is compute the transmission coefficient from the formula of torque is equal to 10 minus TL upon 10. Then we have to find out the average transmission coefficient. Now average can be find it out by considering the transmission coefficient multiplied by the area of that particular element. So that will be given as torque 1 into A1 and plus of torque 2 into A2 plus of torque 3 into A3 divided by the areas of the particular elements A1 plus A2 plus A3. So torque average is your sigma summation of torque multiplied by area divided by sigma of the area, the summation of the total area. And then finally we have to figure it out, the transmission loss average from the average transmission coefficient from the formula of 10 log 1 upon torque average. So this gives you a solved example of the numerical. So window, door and wall having the area of 3, 2, and if we talk about the wall, so that will be total area of the wall minus door and window. So 32 minus 5, that is coming out to be 27. So transmission loss will be already given to you in terms of dB, 20, 35 or 50 dB. So torque value, the transmission coefficient according to the formula will be given as 10 minus TL upon 10. So that comes out to be 10 minus 2. So from that we can figure it out, the average transmission coefficient in terms of window 3 multiplied the area multiplied by its transmission coefficient. So that is 3 multiplied by 10 minus 2 plus door plus of window plus of wall, and then divided by the area of the 3, that is 3 plus 2 plus 27. So that comes out to be the torque average value, and from that we can figure it out the transmission loss average from 10 log 1 upon torque value. So that comes out to be the composite transmission loss of the wall in terms of TB value. Now the transmission loss is same in terms of your sound reduction index value. Transmission loss is nothing but your sound reduction index value. That is denoted by RW in some books. The noise control in terms of educational buildings. So these are the recommendations from NBC. So NBC, what they have done is that the standards have divided all the areas into certain classes in terms of if it is noise producing or producing noise but requiring some kind of quiet operations also at some times, or some kind of quiet areas, and then coming on to the class E, that is areas requiring privacy. So different classes have been generated and all the areas are divided into the classes. So class A is noise producing. So if we talk about the class A, the minimum sound reduction value between the rooms of the same class, that means if we are talking about the kitchen and the dining area, so the minimum sound reduction value recommended is 25 dB in between the various rooms of the same class. So if there is a requirement of two different classes placed along one another, so for rooms with different class placed together in plan, the recommended minimum sound reduction should be 45 dB. So when a room is going to play as a dual use, that is in terms of assembly hall, sometimes quiet requirement is there, sometimes it gets noisy also, so higher sound reduction value to be used. Noisy activities, any kind of repair work or services work should be practiced in non-working hours. The circulation, for the circulation areas, noise is greatly mitigated in schools by the fact that classes usually change rooms together at regular times. Here shows the kind of buffer zones that can be given in between two different group rooms. So if we take an example about a musical school or some kind of ensembles rooms, so in between these, stores can be given which act as buffer spaces. In terms of musical classrooms, there must be a requirement of the recording studio or recording room in between the two musical room. So we know that recording room is basically an acoustical dead room. So there is no scope of any kind of background noise over there. Minimum background noise should be there. So in that case, that recording room is itself acting as a buffer zone. So in second figure shows the sound transmission through direct path and through the flanking transmission. Flanking transmission is through any impact sound, like if we talk about the footsteps noise or hitting of any surface, so then the impact sound is produced. So that is the meaning of flanking transmission. Figure shows the various possible sound transmission paths and their mitigation. Plant rooms should be mounted on vibration sound absorbers to dampen the noise, or maybe it should be located on a or mounted on a floating floor. All connections to the plant should be flexible. Mass of the walls should be adequate and all gaps should be sealed. Acoustical seals can also be provided through the door openings. If the partitions is stopped below the false ceiling, airborne sound can be transmitted through ceiling light fittings. So for that, partition should be stopped at the top of the ceiling, below the top of the soffit of the ceiling level. So airborne sound can also be transmitted through the ductwork. So all the gaps between the ducts and pipes should be well sealed. Open plan schools. Open plan schools have no physical barrier in between, so that the teacher can move from one class to another. The shape of such spaces may be linear, and the partial height barriers of about 1.8 to 2.1 meter in height can be given with suitable planning and positioning. Below the teaching room, through the concrete floor, the impact noise is transmitted below. So the recommended impact sound pressure level should not exceed beyond 70 dB. For that, a covering of 6 mm linoleum or cork tiles on concrete floor are given to meet the requirement. Table shows the RT values, reverberation time values in school with different activity rooms and when it is empty and when it is full. Both the conditions are being given, both the reverberation times are being given when it is empty and when it is full. Coming on to the hospital buildings, in terms of outdoor noise, layout should be such that noise sensitive zones or quiet zones should be placed after the OPD areas. OPD areas should be facing the road with all the parking amenities. In terms of vertical zoning also, OT and ICU areas are placed at the top. That is the most sensitive zone, the OT areas and ICU. Then IPT areas on the below floors, and on the ground floor OPT areas, which are noisy areas, that should be placed. Sources of indoor noise are written over here, whether we talk about the wheeled trolleys, sterilizing equipments, food and medical supplies, kitchen equipment, footsteps, metal or glass equipment, noise caused during buzzers, services or maintenance or engineering services, even your call systems. As you know, hospitals have a service oriented areas like AC plant room, AHU room, pump room are there. They are there in all the types of buildings. But other service oriented utility areas like plant room for oxygen, plant for your air compressors, manifold rooms, different ventilation requirement, gases requirement, and different plumbing requirement for related to different areas, pneumatic tubes, etc. Brief recommendations to reduce noise in hospital areas are: first, to place the noise generating service units far off from the internal quiet zone. That is, kitchen should be preferably in a separate building, screened from the sensitive areas. If we have to place it in the same building due to some site constraints, it is preferable to place it below the wards and not above the wards or other sensitive rooms. Then comes the reduction of noise at source. With so much of use of heavy machinery, equipment, noise reduction at the source level is very much desired in terms of hospitals. For that, use of resilient material to be used. Mats of rubber or any other resilient material will greatly reduce the noise from the utility rooms, mobile equipment, silenced by means of rubber tired wheels and provision of resilient floor finishes. Doors and lift gates to be fitted with resilient closing, that is soft closing gears. Fans and other noise generating machines to be mounted on a suitable resilient mountings. Coming from water and heating pipes, the noise can be reduced by reducing the velocities. By reduced velocity, noise will also be reduced. For the reduction of noise by transmission loss, that can be done through structural means. Walls and partitions can be given and they should have a sound reduction value of 40 dB to 45 dB at least. In terms of hospitals, there are many areas where double swing doors are required because of the stretcher movement. So in terms of double swing doors, the noise is going to be transmitted. So double swing doors with buffer space should be given. So with buffer space, the buffer space should be lined up with also with the absorbent material so that sound transmission should be getting reduced. Ventilation ducts should be provided with sufficient sound insulation. Pipe ducts should be completely sealed around the pipes where they are passing either through the walls or through the floors. Ducts carrying water should be lined with sound insulating material. Porous material with perforated sheet metal, which we have already discussed in terms of acoustical material absorbers, can be used in most of the areas of hospital for a washable acoustical treatment. In the noisy areas, corridors, waiting rooms, sound isolation of around 45 dBA is to be provided in between the two rooms. This shows the different spaces of the hospitals categorized by quiet space, very quiet space, large space, relatively quiet space, noisy space and very noisy space. So in terms of the spaces, the examples are given that the wards are very quiet space and the kitchens and the sterilizing spaces or the service areas comes under very noisy areas. So the table is showing the recommended maximum design sound level, that is equivalent sound level LEQ value of in terms of dBA, and the recommended reverberation time in terms of different spaces are also given in the table. To the office buildings, the sources of noise can be from the machines, printers, footsteps, telephonic, slamming of doors, canteen, kitchen, HVAC or the lift machine room. So for the noise reduction within the rooms, reverberation time should not be greater than 1 second in terms of general offices. In terms of small private offices, RT should not be greater than 0.75 seconds. In large offices, RT should not be greater than 1.25 seconds. For canteen areas also, RT should not be greater than 1.25 seconds. Offices, departments and machines should be segregated. Glazed screens up to the ceiling level should be provided. Machines to be enclosed by panels lined with absorbent material. Where lightweight partition system is desirable, double skin panel to be provided. Sound absorbing material to be introduced into the air cavity between the panel. Partitions should go up to the full height, up to the bottom of the roof. For office buildings, generally a raised floor is to be implemented, not just for acoustical reasons, but also for taking up the wires or doing the wiring for several electrical points. For lightweight floors, generally a double panel hollow floor construction may be employed with some sound damping material introduced between the panels. So the upper panel to be effectively isolated from the rest of the floor. Acoustical ceilings to be given in open plan offices. Open plan offices means those offices with having a partial height barrier in between the workspaces, and that too given just for privacy. So for an open plan office, sound masking is a very effective tool to reduce the background noise level. So electronic background masking noise system is basically we are providing a constant level of a generally acceptable background noise in terms of music in the entire area, so that it masks the conversations coming from the other rooms. In terms of banquet halls, it is advised to avoid the high reflective ceiling. Segregation of noise from the quiet operations by screening and applying sound absorbent materials or by resilient flooring. Contains provision of sound absorbent ceiling, resilient flooring, and use of plastic trays with tables having quiet tops are recommended. Table shows the noise producing rooms and the rooms requiring quiet conditions in offices and their recommended sound reduction values. Hotels and hostels, indoor noise could be due to the occupants, public functions, or late night use of restaurants or utility equipments. In terms of internal planning, provision of sealed windows, partitions of having a good mass, and floors with proper impact insulation should be given. Figure shows the results of the simulation carried out in one of the office layouts. The red color shows the louder zones and the blue color shows the quieter zones. So by adopting good sound absorbent materials or providing acoustical material in between the partitions, the noise level can be reduced to a very significant amount. Shows steps to achieve acoustical comfort in offices, in contemporary offices, by first carrying out a survey on the work patterns, understanding privacy level required, understanding their behavior adaptations, and after determining the work patterns, develop a layout and planning that should be done along with the furniture layout, then followed by acoustical treatment with a minimum NRC noise reduction coefficient as recommended along with the purpose of the room, then specify the sound masking systems to be employed. Figure shows the internal layout and the workstation arrangement in terms of noise transmission, problems of facing and speaking towards each other as compared to facing and speaking against each other. So acoustics is enhanced in the second case. In terms of hotels and hostels, door opening on opposite side of the corridor should be staggered and be provided with cascade on heads or sides. Rooms should be entered through a lobby. Staircase and lift wells to be isolated from corridors by means of swing doors. Service pantries on floors should be separated from the corridors by baffle lobbies. For reducing the plumbing noise coming from the bathrooms, the internal pipe shafts to be given with pipe fittings fixed at a distance from the wall. Care should be taken that AC ducts do not lead to a crosstalk problem. Late night restaurant and nightclubs to be isolated from the bedrooms. Buildings are primarily the producers of noise rather than the receiver. Noise is generated through the machine tools. Impact noise is the most intense and widespread in industries. So structural members also resonate in connection to the impact surface. For example, in the case of riveting, etc. Here shows 3 ways to control noise in terms of industries. So for vibrating machines, figure shows we can provide insulating partition, or second we can give isolation springs below the machines, or third isolating the receiver room or the adjoining room itself. Figure shows sound enclosures, barrier walls, silencers also called as mufflers, which we generally give in terms of your exhaust pipes even to reduce the noise, baffles, acoustical baffles that can be given on the ceilings, or sound blanket that can be just wrapped on the machine itself to reduce the sound. Courts and council chambers, sound reduction index of not less than 50 dB in between the chamber rooms and corridors is recommended. For libraries, museums and art galleries, every opportunity should be taken to plan for noise reduction, both in respect of placement of the building and internal planning. Stack room, admin offices, storerooms should be screening, reading areas and lecture rooms. In public libraries, reference sections should be the first where there can be a higher background noise. Library requires both quiet and privacy to optimize the ability to concentrate. For large libraries, sound masking is designed to ensure the sound privacy. Sound masking can also be applied in bazaars where high level of noise is acceptable. Figure shows the general noise control methods. First, by absorb. Absorption can be done through air or by any kind of absorbing material. Then partially block. Partially block can be through low height barriers or partitions. Completely block, complete barrier or full height partitions starting from floor to the top of the ceiling can be given. Or to cover, that is to mask the sound. So introducing low background noise level so as to mask or cancel the disturbance. We cover the topic of noise control in buildings. These are the references that has been taken. Thank you.